Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I'm very happy today. In person, I have James Oxyer. Hey, James.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. All right, so James is here because last year, almost a year ago, at the festival Film Invasion Los Angeles in 2022, James had a film in there as an official selection called Sorry, a kick-ass horror film. In fact, I might have said this at your Q&A at the theater, but I have a 15-year-old who only wants to watch horror, so I become quite the horror aficionado, and I believe Sorry was a film that I showed her and she loved, so any film that helps a dad show his kid, whatever. Big fan of Sorry. I love your work, and you are here to talk about it, and I guess I don't have to give other things, but you are releasing it online?
I am, yes.
So if people want to check out the film we're about to discuss, although we're going to discuss your whole story as a creative and as a filmmaker, but if people want to check it out, should they just go on YouTube and type in your name? Oh, by the way, Oxyer is spelled
Oxyer.
Oh, so if someone types in James Oxyer in YouTube, do they get it?
Yeah, they should be able to get it. Even if it's not on YouTube, if you go to my Instagram handle, I'll for sure have like a lead on it there. And just to further complicate things, my Instagram handle is Jimmy_Ornyx, ORNYX.
Excellent. Well, the cool thing is, normally at the end of the podcast, I always say, like, I promise the website and or social media will be a clickable link in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I'm going to watch this kick-ass horror movie before I listen to the rest of the interview, you can actually do that. Just click on the show notes. I swear to God, it'll be there. Although it's not there yet because there are no show notes yet. So anyhow, James, I warned you. I was just going to ask you what got you involved in filmmaking, and I was going to add one more thing about horror films, which is one of the things I love most about horror. And I was thinking about this obviously because I was doing dishes before you got here and thinking about what I would say to you. And I was like, the cool thing is, I remember the first time I saw Sorry, and I felt creeped the fuck out, and then you gave me a solid jump scare or two, and I was like thinking as I did the dishes that the best thing about horror is when you're running a film festival and you're on the selection jury, you don't have to sit back and say to yourself, what am I going to rate this? Because if it gets you, it gets you. Like if you're scared. Whereas a drama, you have to say to yourself, how involved was I? How convinced was I? Like, there's all these niceties, whereas I just love the fact, just like comedy, if comedy doesn't make you laugh, well, then you're not going to give it a good rating. If horror doesn't, because nowadays, of course, horror isn't just about jump scares. It's very often about the tone and the mood, but
right, which
is subtle. And you have a lot of subtle, I think your tone is very subtle, but still, I like that term, creep the fuck out. Like, I was really creeped out by watching the film, so that told me, give this one a good rating, so.
Thank you. That was definitely the goal. I love with horror movies that it's mostly in your gut that you evaluate it. It's not like a drama where you can just sit and stew on it a little longer and then maybe it'll appeal to you. Like, the initial reaction of the horror movie is usually the biggest tell, whether it's good or not.
For sure. Does it make it, we can get to that later, but does it make it a little stressful when you're at a festival in a theater and you're like sensing everyone's reactions?
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I primarily make like horror movies and dark comedies. So anytime I'm in like a theater, I'm just, clenching my butt cheeks and just hoping people will, gasp or laugh or something.
For sure. Excellent. All right, well, so how did you get into it? Were you a creative kid, or were you particularly interested in film?
Yeah, so I started off kind of mostly being interested in books and just kind of writing in general. I really overloaded on like R.L. Stine as a kid, and then eventually Stephen King. Eventually, meaning by like third grade, when my parents thought it would be okay if I read Cujo, which not the biggest, not a great book for a third grader to read, but yeah, I really wanted to be a writer. I was writing little like short stories and novellas just like all the time. And I think what ultimately drew me to film was I'd always loved horror movies. I have a lot of strong memories. Some of my my fondest early cinema going memories are with like horror movies and just being very scared and tense. And at a certain point when I was in like 8th grade or something, I realized I was mostly writing short stories and novellas purely just hoping that someone would make them into a movie one day. So I eventually just realized I could probably just cut out the middleman and just start writing screenplays and then just take that avenue.
Was it because there were so many Stephen King movies and such that you were aware of the adaptation thing?
Maybe, yeah, that definitely factored into it. I think the movie that really like got me into filmmaking was Evil Dead. I was like a huge fan of that when I saw it in, I think that was in like 4th grade. And for my birthday one year, my parents gave me like the 3-disc ultimate edition, whatever. And I was watching through like the behind the scenes of everything. And that's like a notorious, like grueling shoot where the hours were like midnight to 6 in the morning. And it was like freezing cold in Tennessee. And they were outside for like the whole thing. And I was just watching that and I was like, that's what I want to be doing.
And super low budget and super independent, the first one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, super scrappy, super just go out and like get it done. And yeah, I just fell in love with that mode of filmmaking.
God, talk about a great first exposure too to behind the scenes type stuff. Because I mean, I know they like probably showed how they invented the shaky cam instead of steady cam, like just a 2x4 with a camera on it and 2 people holding it. Like so smart and innovative to just deal with low budget.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, just the craftiness of it looks so much fun, and it just looked like something I'd enjoy doing eventually.
Excellent. And so you just started. Did you like pick up a book or something, or just start writing screenplays?
I just started writing screenplays. I was kind of stupid. I didn't really look to advice anywhere else on like what the role of the director was or what a producer did or anything. I just kind of like looked up one script, like saw how it was formatted, and then I wrote just a feature-length script like in high school just immediately after that, and it was like horribly formatted. It was like 200 pages long. It was called Marching Band Massacre because I was like a huge band geek then. And yeah, I mean, that was the start really, and then after that I just kind of got bit by the bug, and then I kept going, and eventually I went to film school. I went to Columbia College Chicago. I went in kind of with like the ambition of being like a writer-director, like a Sam Raimi or like a John Carpenter. And then I got to the first directing class, which was really an acting class, which is very smart of them. It's what you should be like starting off with if you want to like become a director. But at the time I was in a stage where I like to direct my actors by just telling them how to read the lines and then just holding them to it. And so I kind of got freaked out by the whole like working with actors thing. So I decided to just stick with screenwriting for the meantime. And so through most of film school, I was focusing on screenwriting. And then I kind of graduated, moved straight to Los Angeles, and then just kind of waited to be paid to screenwrite. And then I realized that also not a very smart way to go about things. So I decided it would be smarter just to like face my fear of directing actors and just like go for it and just direct my own material.
All right, so I'm going to try to make up for my lack of questions earlier because I totally didn't ask where you grew up.
Oh, no worries. That's an interesting question. So I was born in Chicago, and I think a year later my family moved to Indiana. And then I lived there for about 7 years. And then after that, we moved to Tennessee, a suburb of Nashville. And then after that, I went to college in Chicago. And then now I'm here. So I've kind of been... I'm predominantly Midwest based, but, you know, I've kind of been around a little bit.
A little time in the South, and
exactly.
But moving around too.
Yeah.
And I actually did want to ask about the band geek thing.
Yeah.
Because I have this association between people who study music and learn an instrument, and I think that's really good for the writing mind and the creative, right? Is it the math of all that works out, or?
Yeah, I totally think it translates on some like kind of deeper kind of gut instinct level. Like especially when you're like playing something in like a band or something and you're picking up on like the rhythm and how the music is like shaped and, you know, the crescendos and the decrescendos and all that. When you're writing a screenplay, like you really have to take that into account as well. And especially when it comes to like tonal shifts and stuff and just like the balance of like different colors, you know, on like an emotional level in like a screenplay. Like I feel like having some sort of knowledge of music definitely helps with that because it kind of music is more like kind of emotional on like a raw level, and so just getting experience with that can help you kind of translate that more into like something a little more technical, like a screenplay.
For sure. And additionally, right, band, especially marching band, which I assume is more than the sum. The whole is more than the sum of its parts, right? And and that's exactly what film is, right? Like you need the end product to be more than the sum of its parts and see how everything works together. Yeah,
no, I just love working with a team, especially when like the team is my friends and we're all just like having a good time and working towards like a common goal. It's just one of the best feelings out there.
Cool. So I'm glad you backed me up. It's always nice, but you could have said I was totally wrong. I would have been happy to.
No, you're spot on.
And has it? And you said it's always been dark comedy and horror.
Darker material for sure. Yeah, even when I was like a kid, I remember like watching Blue's Clues, and there was like some episode where they went into some like castle dungeon or something, and my little tiny 4-year-old brain was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I love this, like the cobwebs and the spooky lighting and everything." So just kind of from then on out, it's been an interest of mine.
And clearly your parents didn't see it as a threat to you because, you were exposed really young to some stuff.
No, that was more my dad's doing than my mom. But I think he loved Stephen King. He loved all this stuff too. So I think it just made him happy to have like a little buddy to kind of like share it with. So, all the Stephen King movies and all that, it was just, he loved it.
Excellent. Cool. So anything notable during the college years or just
it was pretty straightforward. Yeah, just a lot of like writing, just kind of like just putting my head down and really trying to like find my voice, and just watching a ton of movies and trying to like just get all these different seeing all these different corners of like film, which was very informative. I honestly think the more interesting stuff kind of came after school, and getting out of that like more rigid like educational environment and just being free to kind of like carve my own like chart my own path and like.
And you had the guts to just move out to LA right after graduating?
Yeah, so for my final semester, they did like a semester in LA where a bunch of us kind of came out here and just kind of, took classes out here and just got a feel for the industry. So it made it a lot easier just to kind of ease my way into living out here full time. After I came out here, it was just a lot of working, like just different administrative jobs. Like I was in mailrooms, assistant positions, all that kind of stuff, and just writing on the side until I went a little crazy with the writing and just decided I wanted to do something more hands-on, which is why I ended up writing, directing, producing, and editing Sorry.
And Sorry's the first one?
I'll call it the first one. I did some like little practice shorts in school, but nothing I'd really want to share.
But the first one, like after school, out here working. And by the way, bravo to you for the mailroom and assistant jobs, because I think it's important to be willing to do that if your goal is to be in that industry, because it gives you a really good view, I think, from the bottom. and some people I've met people who've showed up and said, well, I'm going to be the next blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to start in the mailroom. And it's like, dude, that's all the famous people started there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like the most classic, like rags to riches arc you can get. Yeah,
for sure. And you were just writing nights and weekends of sorts, and you hit a point. Did you decide you wanted to make something for sure, or did you write Sorry and say, hey, this one is one location, or?
The urge to make something came first. So this was during the pandemic. So work really slowed down, obviously, and so I ended up with a lot of time to write, which at first I was like, oh, hell yeah. And then eventually I got to a point where I just went a little stir crazy. And that's when I wanted to do something more hands-on and just brush off the directing and the producing caps. At one of my little like pandemic rabbit holes I went down was watching a bunch of really old like British folk ghost stories that were made for TV. They're all on YouTube. They're all really great. And what I really loved about them was how minimalist they were. Like there was really nothing flashy about them. No really fancy special effects or anything. They were just like really good at like handling the camera and using sound design to like really unnerve you and just trying to poking at your imagination to imagine something scarier than anything they could have showed you. So I was really inspired by that, and I have a really nice living room that I thought might be, photogenic. So I ultimately just kind of wrote this little short story that took place entirely in a living room, and just kind of recruited some friends who wanted to, make something after like so many months of not being able to make something. So that's kind of how it all came together.
Yeah, the pandemic had definitely had that effect on a lot of us. I'm kind of curious about this, the hole you described you went down on YouTube.
Yeah.
What led you? How do you even discover that there's? I mean, I know there's like a trillion videos on YouTube, but like, how do you find that niche of like made for BBC horror things?
I think I'd heard about one of them just on the internet. It's called Whistle and I'll Come to You. It's a story about like this really stuffy, like obnoxious academic who goes on vacation on this like beachside hotel, and he hears this legend of like I think it's a flute or like a whistle that's like buried somewhere, and he like stumbles across this, and it says "Whistle and I'll come to you." And because he doesn't believe in like the supernatural and all that, he whistles in it, and then that night he's visited by like a spectral presence, and that's just kind of the whole thing. Just very simple, very to the point, but just the way that like sound design is manipulated and all this really like unnerving use of like imagery. It just was very inspiring, and most of them are actually adapted from this author named M.R. James, who was a really big English ghost story writer back in like the 1800s, I think. And his material just worked really well for television. And so every Christmas, the BBC would just put on like one of these little like 45-minute just ghost stories. And they were all directed by this guy named Lawrence Gordon Clark. And he just directed the hell out of them. And they're all just like very spooky and, yeah, very interesting.
Sounds almost like the British Edgar Allan Poe or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison. Even like the British Robert Eggers might be a good description. He's really into the like folklore and the folk tales coming to life and coming to get you kind of thing.
Well, I definitely see a connection between that and Sorry. I mean,
yeah,
just the way you describe, a skeptic who is then confronted with something supernatural.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think there's spoilers in what I just said. I mean,
you could probably guess from the first shot of Sorry what's going to happen.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right. So you was it a long writing process, or you?
It was pretty quick. Yeah, I got the idea. I was just sitting with my girlfriend one day, and we were just talking about making something in our apartment because both of us were feeling a little antsy. She ended up being the production designer on Sorry, and she did a fantastic job. And yeah, eventually, I think the first idea that came was just like, what if I turned around and then she just vanished? And I was like, oh, I could probably like do that in like a interesting kind of cinematic way. And then the character drama that I came up with for the story was, I mean, I feel like that was also a little pandemic impacted, just spending so much time in like the same space with the same person. You kind of start to like argue about stupid things. So I feel like I was just drawing on that. And then after that, it all just kind of like coalesced into the short film you see.
And so you finished it and just threw it out there for your friends and said, let's do this, and came together?
Yeah, no. So Ben, the actor who plays Garrett, he was a really good friend of mine. I think he's just very funny in general. I wanted to like write a role for him that I thought he would be really funny in. So I brought him on board, and then Mallory's also a close friend, so I knew she was looking to act and stuff, and so I brought her on board. And then our director of photography, Lauren Verona, she had actually DP'd a short film that my girlfriend had directed, and I thought it looked great. I loved her use of color in it, so I brought her on. I also knew that she was really good at working with limited means. I think for this, we really only had like one quasar and just like a handmade dolly track, and so I knew that she could just make that work. And yeah, and just slowly we just started accumulating this cast and crew until, yeah, we got the ball rolling and we got it done.
Sounds so cool. So, and I do say this as for all I know, I'm older than your dad, but as a middle-aged, just to know that, like, you know, you're living in that world where, yeah, you are surrounded by some other creative people and you happen to have people in your friend network with these skills. It's so cool that you were able to just collaborate on that.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely my favorite way to make a movie. Like, I just love movies, even really low budget ones. You see where you can tell that the people who are making it just had, you know, like just grit and a dream, and they just went for it. And I feel like you can like feel that in a movie a lot of times, and hopefully like the fun we had making it translates into the final product.
For sure, the off-screen chemistry always bleeds onto the screen, right? I mean,
hopefully, yeah.
I guess I'm sure people could tell me there's, you know, a story of you know, a pair of actors or a set that was a nightmare set that turned into a great film, but, you know, I think in general you get a vibe. Yeah,
and I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's just movies. Like, you might as well have a good time making one.
For sure. And I want to compliment the casting too, because by my mind's eye, like I think your cast was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
And really liked the way they played it. And even the guy, Ben, I recall thinking, like, he almost has one of those faces where, like, have I seen him before? Like, where's he been?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll have to tell him that. He'll like to
tell
hear
him that. Like, he, yeah, for sure.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Both of them. I think both of them did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, no, they worked really hard on it, too. We did, like, some really good rehearsals, and Ben especially went really, like, deep into his character, and we had a lot of fun talking over, like, his backstory and everything.
I guess so. That's got to be fun. And for you as a writer, it must have been really great because you had all that worked out. Like, you didn't have to riff on it. You could tell him, oh yeah, this is where he comes from. Yeah.
No, I also like to make it a little bit more of a collaboration too, just so I feel like the actor is kind of pulling from their own personal lives when it comes to like whatever headspace they're accessing to get into character. So I suggested, you know, backstories for him, and then he like riffed off me, and we just kind of came to a consensus through that process.
Very cool. Very cool. And I assume, even though obviously you had the set for as long as you wanted it because it was yours and it was pandemic times. Yeah. But was it a quick shoot anyway?
Yeah, I think ultimately it took about a day and a half. We'd scheduled for 2 days, but we ended up wrapping early on the second day. It was It didn't feel like we were going to wrap early when we were shooting it. One of our lights caught fire in my living room the first day, so we had to like cut some shots and stuff. But we just kind of regrouped after that, figured it out, and then after that it was pretty much just smooth sailing.
Wow, my understanding was you didn't have many lights.
Yeah, I forget what they were using. I think it might have been something we planted outside. It was like some stage light that they borrowed or something.
Right. Oh, it was outside pointing in a window.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, hey, at least there was no smoke inside the apartment then.
Exactly, yeah.
You got lucky.
We didn't have to evacuate, yeah.
Well, you didn't have to breathe it, like, right? Yeah. That's probably if you would, everyone would like, sounds like you and your crew and actors would have been willing to like power through it, but I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I didn't have to force them through something like that.
Cool. So then you end up in the editing room for the first time since college.
Yeah. No, that was a little scary. So I originally had one of my friends slated to edit this just because he is an editor and he's a lot more talented than I am. But as he started the process of editing it, he put together an assembly edit for me. But I could tell that it wasn't going to work out just because his schedule was so packed. I could tell he had overcommitted. So I just offered to take it off his hands and just edit it myself. So that's what I did. And it took me about maybe a month to edit total. I mean, a lot of like going on YouTube and looking up Premiere Pro tutorials and stuff. But yeah, it was really fun. It was really great to have like full control over like the footage I shot. And just also the fact that like we hadn't really spent like a whole lot of money on it. I felt like I didn't have any like real pressure on me to deliver something that like, you know, was accessible to everyone or something like that. So I had free reign to just play around with it. And it was ultimately a lot of fun.
For sure. I mean, as the writer, director, and producer, I mean, no one can fire you. So
No, exactly. Yeah.
And if you would turn to everyone you worked with and said, I'm not happy with it, I'm not sure. Like you could do anything you wanted. Like that's the beauty of indie film is you had final cut.
Yeah, the power was a little intoxicating, but I didn't let it go to my head too much.
How so? Do you have a little bit of the intoxication or no?
No, it was. I mean, altogether, like the whole thing was just like very, very chill. So overall, not too bad.
And it seems like you had a good time. So then, did you start showing it to people at home, or start sending it out to festivals, or?
Yeah.
Did you even have festivals in mind as you were making it, or you just kind of wanted to make it?
I just wanted to make it. Yeah. I just felt strongly about the story, and I just thought it would be a lot of fun to make it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I should probably, put this in front of people now. So, yeah, I showed it to just like a few friends and got some like pretty good responses. So I just sent it off to a couple different festivals, including Film Invasion Los Angeles, which I thought was a reach for us to get into. So I was very happy to receive that email that we had made it in. Yeah, and the whole festival journey was really fun too. It was like my first time really like taking a short film around the festivals, and I don't know how often you plug Film Invasion on this, but I will say it was.
Feel free.
I say this not just because I'm in your house, but I thought it was the best festival that we took Sorry to, just in terms of like the investment in the filmmakers and making sure it was just like a good experience for everyone. I just thought the level of care you put into it was very impressive, and I didn't see that from all the other festivals we got into, so kudos.
I greatly appreciate it. I often joke that we're the festival that gives a shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because we truly care.
Totally do.
Like there's other... I know I've been to other festivals. I've talked to other programmers who say things to me like, yeah, filmmakers like Q&As, but who gives a fuck what they want? And I'm like...
Oh, my God.
It just so happens I really like the Q&As too. And aren't... Who do we... If we don't care about the filmmakers... or the films, then why are you even in them? But anyhow, thank you for saying that about Film Invasion. We're actually moving to a bigger cinema now.
Are you really? Which one?
We're going to be at Look Cinemas in Glendale.
Oh,
it's
that's amazing.
Look Dine-In Cinema. Yeah,
I passed that before.
They pursued us, and I was like, well, we can look into it, but I know it's going to be a lot more than our previous venue. And I don't know. They gave us an offer that made sense, so...
Well, congratulations.
I'm glad you had a wonderful experience. And I hope now the question is, can we deliver the same experience? Because it's kind of an intimate vibe, right?
Yeah.
And everyone gets to meet each other at the mixers and then at the screenings. People,
right.
I think the great thing is when people meet, like, then you attend their screenings more, like each other's. And then you meet other filmmakers. I think that sense of community really matters, too.
No, exactly. I think you'll still get that with the big screen. I mean, Sorry on the big screen would have been surreal, but yeah, no, I love the theater you were at before too. Just a great environment.
Yeah, we love it. And honestly, we're going down in the number of seats. But anyhow.
Interesting, okay. Yeah.
Well, that's one way it works out financially. Yeah.
Gotcha.
We'll see. We very rarely would have no seats empty. But anyhow, thank you for saying nice things about Film Invasion LA. It's I guess that's why we're in the top 100. Best reviewed.
Yeah.
That's probably why you submitted. You probably said, I might as well submit. It's local and it's in the top 100 worldwide.
Yeah, that's also probably why I thought I wouldn't get in, because it was in the top 100 worldwide. So thank you for the ego boost. You
know what? It just has to be good. We don't have any criteria besides. It's funny when people send us an email that says, would you be interested in a... And then they talk about their genre or the storyline. I'm like, we don't care what your genre or storyline is. Is it good or not,
Yeah, no, I love that you love all kinds of movies.
We really do. Excellent. And good. But it sounds like you had a good festival run. Did you get to travel a little bit for it, or?
A little bit. I submitted to one festival specifically because it was in Ohio and my parents were living there at the time. So I got to travel up and stay with them, and then my family went and saw it together, which was really special. But yeah, that was kind of the bulk of the traveling. One of the other festivals was in Australia, and I wasn't really making a lot of money off of Sorry, so I couldn't afford the ticket. But maybe next year.
Very, very expensive ticket, I believe.
Yeah.
Once actually, I think it was Film Invasion, might have been Sherman Oaks Film Festival, but someone from Australia actually attended his screening.
Wow.
But he was going to be in LA anyway.
Oh,
Something
okay.
like that. Or he was, you know how those crazy Australians get a month off or whatever?
Do they really?
Yeah, I think they get long vacations like Europeans.
Maybe I should get a ticket there and just stay there.
Socialism, man. It's the best.
I know, right?
If you like vacations and 8-hour, 4-day work weeks. But anyhow.
Oh, I do.
I know, but it's something like that. But it's always an honor when people come from out of town for a festival.
Oh, it's amazing.
Excellent. And what came after Filmvasion? Were we in the middle of your run?
Yeah, I think you guys were like right in the middle. Yeah, so it was just like a good little peak, and then just carried on with the rest of it. And yeah, now I'm really excited to just post it publicly and share it with the world.
And I think I fucked up. I think I didn't mention that you won the audience award. Did I say that in the intro?
I don't think so.
I did not, because it's on the notes right in front, about 12 inches from my face. So why would I remember to say it? But yes, you got the audience award for Best Short Film Horror, which is based on very scientific methods.
Yeah.
But it's clearly an audience favorite.
No, yeah, I love the crowd reaction there. That was definitely my favorite festival screening we went to. Also because of the audience participation there. For
sure. And then yeah, such a good Q&A, right? With an intimate theater and the people close to you. And
yeah, I remember we brought up like pretty much like maybe 75% of our cast and crew up there, which was very generous of you to do so.
I honestly love it. Well, if you want to bring everyone up, I think you did have many chairs.
We sure did. Yeah. That's also like, I don't know. Whenever I like make a movie, I just feel bad like excluding people. Like I kind of wish we had like 8 other people here with me recording this podcast too, because I mean, I came up with the idea, but everyone else was doing the lighting and the sound and all that stuff. So
you have a refreshingly small ego for a writer-director, right? Well,
Thank you.
I mean, there's a lot of really nice people I meet who are filmmakers, but I really appreciate the fact that you even now you're like, it wasn't just my thing. Even though you are listed as writer, producer, and director, and you probably you edited and you probably cooked for everybody and.
Panera, but
Panera, that you ordered everyone's food, but you were crafty. No, but still, it's great that you have so much respect for the collaborative process.
Oh yeah, no, that's what it's all about, and it's. I mean, that's why I've enjoyed filmmaking up to this point. Is just I've gotten to work with my friends, and we just get to like make something together, and it's nothing better.
Cool. So, was it an inspiring thing? Did you are you pumping out more scripts than ever because Sorry was such a good experience? Yeah,
it actually was. It was really helpful for like starting to think small scale too. I know when I was in film school, like when I was writing like feature scripts and stuff, I was really big into the like big explosions and like gory kill scenes and like all that kind of stuff that costs a lot of money. And I got out here and I was like, oh, I don't know how to finance this. So it was a great exercise for just kind of stripping down and like figuring out like what I can do with the resources I already have. It actually did lead to like more ideas for more short films. I'm actually in post-production on a new one right now. It's a dark comedy that's also like one location. Just did it with all my friends, just casted my friends in it. And I'm really happy with how it's been turning out so far.
Well, I've got to say, you beat the odds on the friends. You do have talented friends, because I like both the actors in your film.
Yeah,
and I'll just share a funny anecdote with you. I remember an interview between Kevin Smith and Spike Lee, and Kevin Smith said something to Spike Lee along the lines of, "Well, people criticize me for casting my friends, but you cast your friends." And Spike Lee looked at him and said, "But my friends are good actors." which I love that the implication was, Kevin, God, your friends are such amateurs in Clerks. Like, let's be honest, the acting is terrible in your film.
Yeah.
And my friend is Giancarlo Esposito, so it's like
no, night and day.
Night and day. But your friends did a good job.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Ben isn't really like an actor by like profession or anything. I think he's mostly into like writing, directing, editing, that kind of thing. But he's just naturally just very funny. So yeah, I just thought he'd be good on camera.
Interesting, because the humor is subtle too.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted it to be subtle. I wanted it to be just like fun overall, but not like too like goofy or campy or anything. So
yeah. Well, you have that pivot where it stops being funny, but
yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah, even just like the whole like scenario, I always just kind of thought was funny. Like I don't know if that comes across for other people, but like I don't want to spoil too much, but someone like maybe meeting their demise because they're too proud to like apologize to their girlfriend is just, I don't know. It seems like something I would do, so I just find it very funny.
Yeah, and being a little having maybe a super nice guy, but he might be being a little selfish in the moment. And, and Lord knows, noise canceling headphones aren't a key component of a good relationship.
Nope. No.
Shutting out others.
Yeah, generally doesn't end well.
Noise canceling headphones on the plane or the train makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was sitting with my wife in the living room and although believe me, there's times when she's on the phone, I'm like, God, I really do need those noise canceling headphones. Not just because she's talking to somebody else, but
yeah, no, they come in handy sometimes. Yeah.
For sure.
I do feel like I need to give a shout out to Mallory though, who played Marie.
Yes.
I've been talking about Ben too much. His ego is probably getting too big, but yeah, Mallory was such a trooper through that. I feel like her performance is a little more subtle in it, but she also, we covered her with goop. We had her like writhing around on the floor. Well,
in a lot of ways, I feel like she's the lead.
Yeah.
Because especially like the first, I'm going to describe your short as acts, but like the first act is really about her.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, that was definitely by design. Like we wanted it to be a little bit surprising when, that shifts and it's not about her anymore. And I really think that whole like first chunk is so dependent on like her reaction shots to what Ben is doing. Like, it's kind of like, I heard like a story recently about Monty Python where, the actors there would compete for the straight role, like the person who was reacting to the person being like ludicrous and goofy, because that was the role that like got the most laughs and that was the role that like made the other person's performance work. And I think that's really what Mallory was doing in that first chunk. Yeah. And then the back half, we just covered her in thick water and we I think for one shot, we like put an ottoman on top of her and she was just game for all of it. So yeah, it was fantastic. I
do remember something from the Q&A at the festival.
Yeah.
About what she went through.
Yeah.
And she is in the kitchen too, right? Like you didn't use another performer.
No, that was all her. That was just pure Bruce Campbell and Evil Dead, just covering them in fluids and just making them.
Yeah, you called it thick water now, so
yeah. So thick water is it's what we used as like a slime in the movie, and so what it is some people have like a medical condition where they can't drink normal water. It'll like go down like the wrong pipe or something, and so they need to like they need something to thicken it up, and so you can buy thick water, which is just exactly what it sounds like, in a bottle, or you can buy this powder that turns water thick. If you drink it, it tastes or it feels like you're drinking spit. It's really discomforting, but we heard about it just through these TikTok challenges of people drinking thick water, and we were just like, that would be perfect to use in this spooky short film.
So funny. I mean, I'm familiar with it because as your parents get older, human beings lose the ability to swallow well, and water becomes very dangerous. Yeah, so you have to add that powder to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And apparently once you're in your 80s, you don't care about the taste or something, because my dad never complained about it. But
yeah. No, I'm sure you get used to it after a while, but just if you're not trained for it, it's
the idea. So, and you probably made it thicker than what would be drunk.
No, yeah, we bought the powder so we could control how thick we made it. We made it very goopy.
Oh, that sounds like a fun experiment. Did you like just keep trying and trying until you got the thickness you liked?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just had my girlfriend, she was the one who came up with the thick water idea anyway, but she was just in the kitchen just making a batch of it. And I mean, between takes, I could hear her just having a great time, just playing around with it.
Not to praise the horror genre too much, but again, like making a horror film in your apartment, had to be way more fun than if you'd chosen to make a drama. Like, you know, figuring out how to make someone look like they're covered in protoplasm and you know, having people disappear or slide under furniture. It's just, you know, it's a little better than oh man, I don't mean to insult all the people that make a great conversation film, but it sounds like more fun than a conversation film to me.
No, yeah, definitely. At least making it, for sure. I mean, you're just, I mean, we had so much fun just like playing around with like all the little like tricks we were going to do for it. Yeah, fantastic experience.
And you talked a lot about sound design in relation to other stuff.
Yeah.
Did you do the sound design for Sorry?
No. Oh my God, I wish. That was, so our sound design was done by a man named Luc Jacquemeton, who's insanely talented. He's primarily a musician. He does like kind of like house, electronic dance music, which he's also incredibly talented at. But he also does sound design, and so I brought him on board for this. And at that stage, I had already like whipped up the score with my composer, Nora Colley, who's also very talented. And we had worked, or I should say she had worked very hard on this score for the finale of the film, where I wanted it to feel, you know, like scary, but also a little like mournful. And she just came up with something fantastic for that. So I was very happy. And then I sent it off to Luke to just do his thing with like the sound design. And I think it was even just on like the first cut we got back. The score wasn't in the climax, but he had just gone ham on like the sound design for it and all these like cool little like audio tricks with like the slime and the screaming, and it just sounded so like hellish and cool. Like I felt terrible about it, but I cut the score out of that part and I just kept his sound design because it was just so fantastic.
Less is often more, when especially at climaxes, right? And yeah, it's there's no reason for me to even talk about sound in horror, right? Because it's been beaten to death, but it truly is like, it's just the magic of horror. No,
totally. Yeah. And that was something we had like planned out, like even before we shot it, was like how sound was going to like play into like all these little chunks we were filming, and just making sure that like at every moment we were like having some sort of like sound that was going to be like unsettling to the audience.
It's how you unsettle them, and then if you want to scare them, you got to make it real quiet first, right? And all the tricks. If you try to break that rule, it'll just take one pass for you to change your mind, right? Because you you can't scare anyone if it's not quiet. It's so interesting, and you can't prevent yourself from reacting. It's funny, and I say this as someone who watches a lot of horror with a teenager. Yeah, is, you know, we're watching something and it gets really quiet, and I'm like, okay, get ready. Just relax your muscles so you don't, you know. Yeah. Because I'm actually a big reactor. In fact, the kid complains that like she's more afraid when I go, than she says I'm scarier than the film itself. And I'm like, no, you got to let yourself get into it.
Right. No, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like you don't walk away from a jump scare and say, oh, that was interesting what they did. Like it either worked or it didn't.
It's an involuntary response, and what more can you ask for? Like, it's an involuntary emotional response, and it's whether it's a laugh or a scare or a cry. Like, that's what I want. If a drama doesn't make me cry, man, it's got to be really good.
Oh yeah,
because if it's really good, normally I'll, you know, if it'll put me, you know, puts the audience in touch with their emotions, right? That's that job.
No, definitely, yeah, and I think horror can also do that too. Because, I mean, there are also, like, parts of a horror film where, like, the scary stuff isn't happening, and it's also, like, a challenge to make that compelling alongside the horror stuff. And, you know, crafting characters that you're interested in and want to see, like, what's going to happen to them is also half the battle with getting the audience to kind of buy in and invest in it.
For sure. In fact, if you don't make your characters interesting, they don't have to be likable, but we have to be invested in them in a little, right? Because otherwise... Yeah. You know, if the first thing that happened is, you know, diver shark, like there's a reason, there's a reason why we, you know, in Jaws, we had the couple, you know, she's not just starting in the water. Like we get a vibe of what's going on with their evening and stuff.
You get to know her a little.
Yeah. You get to be like, you know, otherwise, would you care? You wouldn't care too much.
Yeah. And it kind of The reverse is like kind of a little bit true with what I wanted to do for Sorry. I think it's kind of clear, kind of upfront. Well, I don't know if it's clear, but I kind of wanted audiences to be rooting against Garrett a little bit. I think when you see his character, I wanted there to be an expectation like, okay, this is someone who is not going to survive a horror movie, and then have that anticipation of like, okay, when and how is it going to happen? And make that like a little satisfying in the end.
For sure. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because when the film starts off, I mean, you might have been in a horror. We tend not to have only horror blocks, but you might have. Sometimes we do it. I can't remember. But like even your film, like you said, like there's other elements in it, you know, before it gets. Although she sees something pretty early, I guess. But
yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is you don't give away your genre right away.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I tried not to. Yeah, I really wanted to have that buy-in where you see like a situation between two characters where you could maybe like relate to it, and then just kind of like the relatability kind of lets you buy into like the world a little and gets you interested in like the different characters and what they want. And then so when, you know, things start happening, there's a little more sense that something real is at stake.
Absolutely. Well, that must come from the fact that you've studied the genre most of your life.
Yeah.
And I am learning, much to my, I will confess to you, I've not read Stephen King, and I keep talking to people I like and respect, and they're like, you gotta dive into King, because I just wasn't a horror guy until, you know, honestly, the last 5-10 years.
Oh wow!
So
yeah, it's very recent.
Yeah, I know, it's new for me actually. It's really the kids' fault.
They were into it, and then
she went. Yeah, you know. Well, I grew up at a very shitty time for horror. Like I grew up. Well, I was a kid of the 70s and 80s, and horror was pretty schlocky back then. Like, it's gotten so much smarter.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, the horror that's coming out nowadays is very inspiring, which is funny because when I was growing up as, like, a teenager, like, the schlocky 80s stuff was all I was watching, you know, like the Mutilator and Blood Rage and all that kind of stuff. That's what I cut my teeth on, really. For
sure. And as I recall, there were some films... I think especially like the Final Destinations ones and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just like, all right, how creatively can they kill a teenager? And like, you know, whatever. If a wire fence cuts a guy into 6 different parts, you know, in my case, you turn to your kid and go, oh, that was a good kill. But yes, you need more than a good kill nowadays. Heck, now we have there's a whole genre of horror that isn't scary. It's more just sort of creepy, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting too. A lot of the like kind of lo-fi horror that's been coming out. I don't know if you saw like Skinamarink or...
I didn't see Skinamarink. I saw... Well, the one I would think of would be like Saint Maud.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting one.
Like just slow and creepy throughout and...
Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised with that one because I was watching it and I was like, oh, this isn't trying to be like The Exorcist. This is more trying to be like Taxi Driver or something like that.
It was. I actually hold it in really high esteem. Which is funny because like the kid hated it. She's like, "There's no jump scares in here,
right?
Let's watch a shark movie." But
yeah,
because we left 47 meters down.
Oh, nice.
No matter how many times you watch that fucker, you jump, but you cannot jump. But anyway, but I just thought it was. What can I say? I guess I'm using your time to talk about Saint Maud, but I'll just say that it kind of made it clear to me. Oh my God, every saint in history has been a schizophrenic who saw things.
Yeah. No, I think that's what makes the ending so powerful too. That's probably one of my favorite endings to come out in the last couple of years.
It's just an ending, yeah. No one will ever get over that ending. If you didn't make it to the ending because you weren't interested enough in that film, I pity you.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And your writing, is there the next film, is it along the same lines as Sorry, or are you trying new things?
I think overall I'm trying new things. It's another two-hander, but this one is pretty much entirely dialogue driven. It's kind of like I don't know if you watch I Think You Should Leave on Netflix. Have you heard of that?
I started it.
Okay.
It's that comedian. What's his name?
Tim Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah. I admit I gave up. I gave up
Not
pretty
your type
early.
of humor.
I don't know. It didn't. Yeah, he didn't work for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds like, but the funny thing is, it sounds like something I should like. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I love I Think You Should Leave. I think it's maybe my favorite like sketch show that I've seen. And so yeah, this one's kind of along those lines of like humor, but with kind of more of like a dark, like nightmarish kind of bent. So yeah, just kind of like working on that one. It's interesting to like play with like the tone on that one because it is a mix of like humor and like kind of dark.
Right. So you
material.
leaned a little more into dark humor on this one.
For sure. Yeah.
I got to say, I love dark humor. And I think it really is, and this is an opinion I can't support, but I think it's probably the toughest thing to write.
Yeah.
I think, well, and I'm just going to define it my own way. If you kill someone and it's funny,
Yeah.
you have accomplished something really near impossible. And people do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every time I think it's funny when someone dies, I'm like, I just can't believe that was funny. Like, I just think it's such a skill.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the definition of dark comedy is murder is funny.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's some of the best dark comedy out there. I think even I don't know if I'd call them dark comedies, but like the Final Destination movies at a point kind of reach that where the way they kill people is just so outlandish and comical. Like they're probably trying to get you to laugh at them.
Yeah, they turn into a Rube Goldberg machine of death, right? Like,
yeah,
I remember the end of one, like a sign, like whatever. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Well, I'm happy to talk Final Destination deaths all day.
I don't think I went too far past like number 3 or so.
Okay.
How many are there? Like 11?
I think there's only 5 actually.
5. Oh.
Yeah.
They
So you
must
still have
not
time
all
to
be
catch
on
up.
Netflix. Or we're I'm as cheap as everyone, right? You just watch what's free.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, and I don't know if you'd want to pay for Final Destination 4 or 5 or anything.
Especially
necessarily.
when there's only 1,000 things on. Once you put together Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon Prime,
Plus trying to program a film festival.
plus well, Lord knows I don't watch a lot of movies that are not submitted to the festival. It's true.
Gotcha.
It's true. I watch a ton that are, but not that. I know people are like, "What's your Oscar pick?" And I'm like, I didn't see anything. I saw everything everywhere all at once on a cruise ship for our Christmas holiday and loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. But anyhow, yeah.
Oh, I'm a big Raccacoonie fan. He's always got a place in my household.
Excellent. All right. Well, anything else you want to add about what you've been working on lately or the new film? You want to say the title?
Sure. I mean, the title is just Hey Man. It's I guess you could call it like a dark buddy comedy.
So you find short titles appealing?
Yeah, just, I don't know. They just seem organic for this
You
one.
could get somewhere. Now, this is a really silly joke, but you could like make your IMDb page like a sentence.
out a word.
Sorry, hey man. And then like just keep creating a sentence out of titles.
I should have done Hey Man first because it could have been Hey Man, sorry. And then
You
so
could just
on and
lie
so
about
forth.
the year. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
well, fine. It doesn't have to be in order. Just together, they'll create a.
Oh, yeah. It could be like a little Easter egg for fans to go and unscramble it to figure out what the message is.
People do that now, right?
Oh, yeah. Did you ever see Under the Silver Lake?
No.
Have you heard of that?
No.
It's an A24 movie, but yeah, it's about like a conspiracy nut played by Andrew Garfield who just goes down like a rabbit hole in Los Angeles, and it's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Under the Silver Lake.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but I really liked it.
I love weird. I can't get enough weird. And I might happen to know a 15-year-old who thinks Andrew Garfield is the most handsome Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
He's number 1 now.
Over Tom Holland.
Over Tom Holland. It took a lot. And Toby was like, yeah, it's very funny to be around a hormonal teenage girl watching Spider-Man movies.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I don't know. Am I revealing too much? She will never listen to this, so I can say
Okay,
anything
that's
I
good.
want. But it is very funny just to be sitting there and remember, oh, that's right. I guess when you're in high school, the way actors look is the most important thing to you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Man, I miss those days. Things were just a lot easier.
Yeah. In fact, our dream sex object is almost always locked in at 15 or 16, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like if you
Is
think
that
back,
like a statistic or?
No, I just pulled it out of my ass, but I think it's
That sounds about right.
But it's almost also your favorite band your senior year of high school is probably going to be your favorite band in your 50s still.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I should have been a psychologist. But
Yeah.
that's what my mother thought I should do, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Got as an amateur psychologist, I had some issue where I wouldn't do what my mom said.
Was that all a lead into that joke, or was that
No,
true?
I'm just being silly.
That's funny.
I will. Do you want to name? Well, you already named at the top. You named your social media. Do you have a website too, or websites are so like 20 years ago?
I should have a website. TBD, I guess.
But you don't really need one now.
Yeah, it does help though. I wanted to get one just, to get one and have like a little space for like my portfolio and everything. I recruited my kind of techie little brother for it. But it's been like 2 years and he's not done, probably because I'm not paying him for it. Last I heard, I think he like outsourced it to workers in like the Philippines or something. So we'll see if that ever reaches the light. But for now, Instagram is totally fine at Jimmy Ornyx, Ornyx. And yeah, Sorry will be debuting on Friday, March 31st. It might already be out by the time this podcast drops. I think probably on my YouTube, maybe on some other platform. But yeah, look at my Instagram for more info on that.
Yeah, and the truth is James was right because I have too many podcasts saved up. So I think this one will actually be coming out like the first week of May.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could make it line up with but yeah, it's cool, right?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah. I would cut you in front of the line if you had like a big premiere kind of thing going on. But people can go check it out right now on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. It's on YouTube. Please go give it a like and a subscribe and all that.
And please comment. Write a nice comment.
Please, I need that.
Because, and not just for James's ego, but all the filmmakers I've talked to say that the algorithms care more about comments than likes.
Oh, is that true?
I don't know. But I'm told by people who sound like they know what they're saying.
Interesting. Okay. I have some family members I can reach out to and create a little comment
farm. The
farm.
cool thing is you had such a good collaborative team on this too. You can count on all. There's you can send an email and get like 20, 30 good comments, Whereas this podcast, I think you're probably guest number 190 or so. Actually, higher than that, I think.
Oh, wow.
And I don't have 190 like 5-star reviews.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah.
A little sketch on your previous guests, I would say.
It just doesn't occur to anybody. And it's my failing also because I've never sent out an email saying, hey, would everyone on the pod? But anyway. Yeah. All right. Well, I promise all that stuff will be clickable. Oh, and the good thing is a couple weeks, actually, wow. So 10 days from now, you're going to release it.
10 days, yeah.
10 days from when we're talking, and when it comes out will be
like negative.
So anyhow, all that was so I could say that we'll have a clickable link to the YouTube.
Yep, you sure will.
And then if I'll give you the info about the Discover Indie Film TV series that was born out of the podcast. If you decide to go on there, then maybe I'll switch the link someday. Who knows?
Okay.
I got no problem with people watching it on YouTube. And then it also being part of the TV series. But now that was an accidental segue to my wrap up, right? So let me just wrap us up by saying thank you for listening. This is the Discover Indie Film Podcast. Like and subscribe. Heck, write a review if it's going to be a good one. And if you want to learn more about this podcast or that TV series that I just mentioned that's on Amazon Prime Video, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. And on social media, it's at DIFWins. And if you go to Amazon Prime Video, just type in search Discover Indie. Around there is when it auto-completes Indie Film. There's Discover India and then Discover Indie Film. So around that E in Indie, it auto-completes. At this point, there's going to be 8 seasons released. Hard to believe. but I've been doing this a long time. And I will now move on and point out, yes, James's film, Sorry, was in Film Invasion Los Angeles that we hold every June. So you can learn more at filminvasionla.com, and it's at filminvasionla on social media. And please note I said invasion. Sometimes I mumble that. And I did mention Sherman Oaks Film Festival. We hold that one every November. You can learn more at shermanoaksff.com, and it's at Sherman Oaks FF on social media. And now James Oxyer is going to hear me say one last surprising thing, which is, because I have no respect for my personal time, I started another thing trying to get indie films out there to the world. It's called TVHi, TVHi. You can learn about it if you go to the website, watch TVHi, TVHi. And it's all wonderful indie films that also might be a little better to watch if you're stoned. That's why it's called Watch TVHi. But you don't have to be stoned to enjoy them. And please don't use drugs if they're bad for you. Some people can use them in a positive way. Some people it destroys their life. I have friends in recovery, so I do kind of take this seriously. But what can I say? When I do enjoy drugs and I'm old enough and it's legal where I live, I always have a hard time finding what I want to watch. You know?
Yeah. No, I had a bad experience recently where I took an edible and I somehow put on No Country for Old Men. Would not recommend.
I wouldn't recommend either. But sometimes I've been on like Netflix, like I'm just looking around for something that will match my vibe. And you know, they're never going to have a section that says, hey, here's stuff that's good for when you're high. Because they're a huge corporation. They don't want to deal with that. They want, funny thing is, they just want to give us true crime and The Office.
Yeah.
Right? So anyhow, so go to watchtvhi.com, TVHi, and it's actually $4.20 a month. It's $4.20 a month. For some reason. Thank you. All right. James, thank you.
Yeah, of course. This was fun.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.